Why did the Motorola phone empire fade? Motorola was once the king of the mobile phone industry. But today, this name has almost disappeared from the smartphone race. What caused such a powerful empire to collapse? Short story. In 2004, Jack, a tech enthusiast, eagerly held the Motorola Razr V3. One of the most luxurious and popular flip phones in the world at that time. With its ultra-thin design, shiny metal shell and signature, "Hello Moto" startup sound, the Razr quickly became a symbol of style and class. However, just a few years later, when the iPhone and other touchscreen smartphones began to appear, Jack gradually realized that Motorola was no longer the top choice. His friends gradually switched to modern, large-screen touchscreen phones, while Motorola remained loyal to its old design and was slow to adapt to change. One day, when he wanted to upgrade his phone, Jack stopped by his favorite tech store and realized that there were no Motorola models on display. The once popular brand was now just a name in his memory. What happened? Why did Motorola lose its shine? Motorola was a pioneer in the mobile phone industry, creating the world's first mobile phone. They once dominated the market with iconic models like the Razr V3. But then gradually disappeared before the rise of Apple, Samsung and other smartphone manufacturers. So what caused Motorola to fall from the top to the bottom? Understanding Motorola's decline not only helps us look back at the history of the technology industry, but also provides a valuable business lesson. Without timely innovation, even the greatest brands can be forgotten. The main reasons why Motorola's mobile empire declined. Downward trend 1. Technology, slow to innovate, losing competitive advantage. Motorola was a pioneer in the mobile industry, but when touch-screen smartphones were born, they failed to keep up with the trend. While Apple and Samsung continued to innovate, Motorola focused on flip phones and physical keyboards. For example, when Apple launched the iPhone, 2007, Motorola was still struggling with the Razr line, even though the product was gradually becoming outdated. Bank 2. Business, wrong strategy, relying too much on Android. Motorola used to have its own operating system, but they did not develop strongly and switched to Android too late. Without a strong ecosystem like Apple or Samsung, Motorola lost its difference and gradually faded away. Anti-clockwise arrows 3. Management, constantly changing owners, lacking long-term strategy. In 2012, Google bought Motorola, but only 2 years later, sold it to Lenovo. Constantly changing owners made Motorola have no stable direction. Products lacked investment and were less competitive. 4. Market, stronger competitors. Samsung, Apple, Nokia, and later Xiaomi. Huawei rose with superior technology. Motorola was not innovative enough to retain customers, and its market share gradually declined over time. Shopping cart 5. Vision, misjudging user preferences. Motorola once thought that flip phones would dominate forever, but they failed to recognize the market change. When users preferred large-screen, touch-screen smartphones, Motorola responded too slowly, leading to a loss of customers. Checkmark conclusion. Motorola did not fail because of a lack of resources or technology, but because they did not adapt to the changing times. Real-life examples, scientific research, and personal stories to illustrate. Bar graph 1. Real-life examples. Motorola declined before the rise of the iPhone and Samsung. In 2004, the Motorola Razr V3 became the best-selling phone with over 130 million units sold. But in 2007, Apple launched the iPhone with a touchscreen, completely changing the mobile industry. Motorola reacted too slowly, had no products to compete with the iPhone, causing its market share to drop rapidly. By 2011, Motorola's market share had dropped to only 2%, compared to Apple and Samsung, which accounted for more than 50% of the market. Microscope 2. Scientific research, the impact of technological innovation on businesses. According to a study by Harvard Business Review, 80% of technology companies fail due to slow innovation, not being able to adapt to trends. Motorola is a typical example. They have technology but do not know how to take advantage of it, allowing competitors to surpass them. Research from McKinsey & Company also shows that market-leading companies must always innovate at least every 2 to 3 years to maintain their position. Motorola cannot do this. Personal story: investors bet on Motorola, but disappointed. David, a veteran investor in New York, once put his faith in Motorola, the mobile phone brand that once dominated the market with iconic products like the Razr V3 and the legendary flip phones. To David, Motorola was not just a technology company, but also a symbol of innovation, exquisite design and strategic vision. In 2010, amid the volatile stock market, David saw a potential opportunity. Although it had lost some of its shine, Motorola was still a big name in the mobile industry. He believed that with a solid technological legacy and a loyal customer base, Motorola could definitely get back on track. In addition, the company was shifting its focus to developing smartphones running the Android operating system, a platform that was growing strongly at that time. Believing in the rise of the one-time giant made David decide to invest heavily, buying a large amount of Motorola shares, expecting to make a big profit when the company revived. But the market does not operate on emotions or nostalgia. Despite Motorola's efforts to reposition its brand, the technology world is still fierce and does not have room for slow-moving names. Apple with the iPhone and Samsung with the Galaxy line quickly dominated the market, while Motorola struggled with products that were not competitive enough. Instead of recovering, the company continued to slide with losses and bad business decisions. The climax came in 2012, when Google bought Motorola for $12.5 billion. Initially, the deal raised hopes of investors like David that under the leadership of a giant like Google, Motorola would have a chance to revive. But the reality was harsh. Google was not really interested in reviving Motorola. What they needed was the company's patent portfolio to serve the legal battles in the smartphone world. Just 2 years later, Google sold Motorola to Lenovo for a shocking $2.9 billion compared to the original purchase price. Motorola's stock plummeted. Investors like David, who believed in the return of an icon, could only watch bitterly as the value of their investment evaporated day by day. After months of patient waiting and hoping, David was forced to accept the truth and sold all the shares he had placed high hopes on. Personal story: a loyal user forced to leave Motorola. A loyal user's regretful journey. Emily, a tech-savvy person who doesn't follow trends, has been with Motorola since the early 2000s. For her, the legendary Razr V3 is not just a phone, but also a symbol of style, class and superior quality. The sound of opening and closing the phone's cover, the sophisticated metal keyboard and the ultra-slim design of the Razr V3 captivated Emily from the first time. Holding the Motorola in her hand, she always felt confident and proud, as if she owned a piece of technology from the future. Not only the Razr V3, Motorola has also produced many outstanding phone models, with strong signals, long-lasting batteries and impressive durability. During those years, Emily never thought of switching to another brand. For her, Motorola was more than just a choice, it was part of her lifestyle and aesthetic. As times change, Motorola was left behind. But then, the technology world entered a whole new era. Apple launched the iPhone, followed by Samsung, HTC and many others racing on the smartphone track with large touchscreens, smart operating systems and a series of unprecedented modern features. At first, Emily still believed that Motorola would quickly catch up with the trend. But as the years passed, Motorola's new phone models gradually lost their appeal. They were still sturdy and durable, but not as cool as before. Small screens, not as smooth performance as iPhones, lackluster cameras, and a lackluster user experience. When Emily tried out her friends' shiny iPhones or sharp Galaxies, she began to notice a clear difference. While everyone had entered the modern smartphone world, she was still trying to hold on to a brand that was no longer leading. Despite her continued support for Motorola, the inconveniences became more and more obvious: slow-loading apps, unstable performance, fast battery drain, and more importantly, Motorola was no longer a trend-setting name. It was just a part of her memory, a difficult but necessary decision. Finally, after much deliberation, Emily made her decision. One day, when her old Motorola phone started having serious problems, she walked into a tech store and chose to buy an iPhone. When she opened the box and touched the smooth touch screen for the first time, Emily knew she had entered a new era. However, she still had a bit of regret in her heart. Not only regret for a brand that had been associated with her for many years, but also regret for a time long gone by, the time of stylish flip phones, of the characteristic click sound each time the phone was closed, of SMS messages typed with the T9 keyboard, an era that had passed, but was never forgotten. Real-life lessons and useful tips. Light bulb lessons learned. Motorola was a pioneer in the phone industry, but past success does not guarantee future success. They failed not because of lack of technology or resources, but because they did not innovate in time and did not understand consumer needs. Loudspeaker useful tips. Keycap 1. Continuously innovate. Technology and market trends are always changing. If businesses want to maintain their position, they must constantly update and innovate. Keycap 2. Listen to users. Success does not come from having the best product, but from products that meet customer needs. Keycap 3. Long-term strategy is more important than short-term wins. Motorola's constant change of ownership and lack of a sustainable development plan left them disoriented. Keycap 4. Don't rest on your laurels. Any company, no matter how big, if it fails to adapt, will be overtaken by its competitors. Speech balloon. What do you think about Motorola's decline? If they had changed sooner, would the outcome have been different? Share your thoughts. Could Motorola have avoided its demise if they had innovated in time? If you were the CEO of Motorola at that time, what would you have done to save this legendary brand? If you find this video useful, don't forget to like to support us, share to let your friends know, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the most interesting technology analysis.